welcome to this very special episode of NewsX Deep Dive. I'm Savri Jindal. On June 19, 2026, former U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard released hundreds of pages of declassified documents that she says shed new light on one of the biggest unanswered questions of the COVID-19 pandemic. Did the virus emerge naturally, or did it accidentally leak from a laboratory in China? Gabbard argues that they reveal how key officials and scientific voices may have influenced the U.S. government's understanding of COVID's origins. Listen in to what she said.
Before the COVID pandemic, Dr. Fauci, as head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided millions in U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund dangerous gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, work which is now widely viewed as the source of the unintentional lab leak that sparked the pandemic. Now, in support of President Trump's maximum transparency mandate, today, on my final day as Director of National Intelligence, I'm releasing never-before-seen communications and documents that expose exactly how Fauci worked with politicized career leadership in the intelligence community to suppress the truth about his actions, the virus's lab leak origins, and his role in directing U.S. funding for this dangerous research that caused immeasurable harm and countless lost lives. Now, these documents expose Fauci's direct role in influencing and manipulating IC assessments on COVID-19 and how Fauci lied to Congress in 2024 when, under oath, he denied knowledge of or participation in discussions with intelligence officials about viral research.
At the center of the controversy is Dr. Anthony Fauci, who served as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease during the pandemic. According to declassified material, Fauci's agency funded research involving coronavirus, including projects conducted to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China through intermediary organization. Critics have long argued that this created a conflict of interest when questions emerged about whether the pandemic may have started with a laboratory accident. The documents suggest that even as intelligence agencies were trying to determine how the pandemic began, Fauci was being consulted as an expert by officials involved in those investigations. According to Gabbard's official office, intelligence officials viewed Fauci as one of the world's leading coronavirus experts and sought his guidance on whom to consult and which scientific evidence to examine. Critics argue that because Fauci's agency had funded some of the research under scrutiny, his involvement created at least the appearance of conflict of interest. In fact, on the press release made on June 12th, this is what the circular said. Despite the obvious potential for catastrophic global impact research on dangerous pathogens in biolabs can have, politicians, so-called health professionals like Dr. Fauci, and entities within the Biden administration's national security team lied to the American people about the existence of US-funded and supported biolabs and threatened those who attempted to expose the truth. The release also revisits the role of EcoHealth Alliance and its president, Peter Zacks. Early in the pandemic, a group of scientists published a letter in the medical journal, The Lancet, condemning theories that COVID-19 may have come from a laboratory. The letter was widely cited as evidence of scientific consensus favoring a natural origin. But now, one of the key documents highlighted in Tulsi Gabbard's release is a U.S. government grant awarded to EcoHealth Alliance for a project titled Understanding the Risk of Bat Coronavirus Emergence, led by Peter Zacks. EcoHealth Alliance collaborated with research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Critics argue that the document establishes a funding trail linking U.S. taxpayers' money to coronavirus research connected to Wuhan. However, the grant does not prove that COVID-19 was created in a laboratory or leaked from one. Instead, it's being cited as evidence that U.S.-funded research had ties to facilities later scrutinized during the pandemic. Another email shows this that intelligence agencies were discussing about the 2016 New York Academy of Medicine meeting, where Zarks talked about his colleagues in China manipulating the spike protein on coronavirus to make them more virulent. Listen in to what the video is saying.
Example, first of all, we're only looking at viral families that include those that have gone into people from animals. So we narrow it down straight away. Then when you get a sequence of a virus and it looks like a relative of a known nasty pathogen, just like we did with SARS, we found other coronaviruses in bats, a whole host of them. Some of them looked very similar to SARS. So we sequenced the spike protein, the protein that attaches to cells. Then I didn't do this work, but my colleagues in China did the work. You create pseudoparticles, you insert the spike proteins from those viruses, see if they bind to human cells. And each step of this, you move closer and closer to this virus could really become pathogenic in people. So you narrow down the field, you reduce the cost, and you end up with a small number of viruses that really do look like killers. Then you look in people and you say, in the people that live in the region where this animal lives, that are exposed to that virus, do we see
Perhaps the most striking revelation concerns a team of biological weapon experts known as the Z Division at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. According to the declassified documents, the specialists concluded as early as May 2020 that Wuhan Institute of Virology possessed all the necessary conditions for an accidental release of a laboratory-modified coronavirus. So what does all this mean for our understanding of COVID-19? The Gabbard files raise questions about the role of Peter, Zark and Anthony Fauci in shaping the documents. Do not prove a lab leak, wrongdoing, or a conspiracy to create or release COVID-19. Joining us to take this conversation forward is Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman of Nephron Clinic. So thank you for your time speaking to us on NewsX. And it's a bombshell that has been exposed by Tulsi Gabbard on her last day. What exactly do you make of it, sir?
Good evening. So this is one of the darkest kept secrets, one of the worst nightmares as far as Fauci and US is concerned. No question about it. I mean, these are the real equivalent of Epstein files of COVID. When you're looking at approximately 7 million humans globally who've died, the estimated death rate would probably be close to 35 million because a lot of them went underreported initially without diagnosis and tests. When you're looking at 750 million who were infected, more than 30% of these are suffering from long COVID. And no sensible, authentic investigations for the last 6 years have been made public as far as the origin of COVID is concerned. So let me tell you about this COVID story. We've done multiple shows, not only on your channel, but various other channels, that this virus and single-stranded RNA virus has mutated unlike any other RNA virus. It went from alpha, then the devastating Delta wave in Delhi, NCR in northern India. Then we had Gamma, we had Theta, we had various other things, and finally Omicron in the last 2.5 years, which has mutated more than 1,700 times. The tweaking of this virus was suspected near the what we call as the furan site, that is the furan cleavage site. And if you notice, it does 4 things. 1, it makes it more invasive. 2, more transmissible. 3, it latches on to the cell much quicker and it lasts longer in the body. 4, it evades the body immune system and indeed the vaccine's immunity. So in short, what this has done is right from DG614 mutation to N501 mutation, which is the receptor binding domain mutation, there have been series and series of mutations which have continuously taken place. This investigation should have been made public. Fauci, under oath, has told the Senate and the US government that he had nothing to do, he had no knowledge, which is now being proved contrary. So very clearly, I think Fauci is in the dock. The US needs to come clean. So does China, for that matter. And of course, Fauci and the WHO wasted a lot of precious time in the initial days vis-a-vis saying 6 feet social distancing is not mandatory. Masks are not because it is not airborne. This actually caused the spread in the first 6 to 8 weeks, not only in Alpha, but even after Alpha, in which the world was left gasping and unaware of how this mode of transmission takes place. So I think there is a lot of dark secrets in the underbelly as far as Fauci is concerned. I'm sure he's going to be investigated. And I'm sure US needs to come clean to say what the origin truth is. And WHO, I've said for a very long time, it's a body which is now totally redundant. We need an international healthcare supporting body, but not the present structure of WHO, in which 80% of the vaccines produced went to 20% of the countries, where most of the people, even in the third world country and developing nations, were left languishing to die. Even to date, they are unable to control various kind of outbreaks in the African subcontinent, who is a neglected child of the world. I think WHO needs a complete shake-up and revamp, but over to you.
Right, absolutely. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on NewsX, sharing your perspectives with us. On that note, we slip into a short break.